Ujai, and welcome to the Gator Gates podcast. We're back at you with another episode. We really appreciate you guys tuning in, actually, because I know there's so many other things you could be doing tonight. It's a Friday night, but if you're here spending the time with us, we appreciate you. And we have a nice topic to talk about tonight. But before we hop in, we just want to take the time to really acknowledge the forces in the non-material, the ancestors standing behind this great work. The ancestors of the Earth Center, all of our ancestors, your ancestors, the powers of nature. And also we'd like to acknowledge the fact that we are all Dogon initiates. So we are all initiates of the Dogon temples, Kebtah, for those that know us that way. And, everything that we're talking about comes from somewhere. I just want to take the time to really acknowledge that because, sometimes we have people that might be affiliated with us that go out and want to talk and want to do certain things, and then they don't want to give credit where credit is due. So when we take the time to acknowledge the forces in the non-material, when we take the time to acknowledge the fact that we have a master, when we take the time to acknowledge the fact that we come from somewhere and we're a representation of temples, it's because we're acknowledging the fact that we've been initiated into this and we're coming from somewhere and it's not coming from us. So a word from our sponsor, Sauce. Give me 1 second. I do this every week where I never have it ready to go, but Sauce Hot Sauce began in 2007 when a small group of students traveling in West Africa were trying to think of ways to support charitable projects. One of the students traveling happened to be a artisanal hot sauce chef, and right there, Sauce Hot Sauce was born. Since then, Sauce Hot Sauce has prided itself on making exceptional artisan hot sauces with the high-quality ingredients to support good causes. We continue to do this with the best and tastiest offerings of sauce flavors to date, with a focus on supporting displaced families in the Fada and Gourma region of Burkina Faso with the revenue from our sales. Now, we just really want to acknowledge some of the stuff that's going on right now that you guys can be involved in. If you're tuning in and you're in California or you're in Colorado or you're in any of the regions where there's going to be some of the events that are going down, check us out at dogonwisdom.com, or is it dogonwisdom.org? By us, for us, coming from the indigenous perspective. This is the only book that you can get that's written by Dogon. Check it out, Philosophy Podium, 3rd edition, with a new introduction by Nabila Musa Basaru. You can get it at risingfirefly.org. Get your copy. It's a game changer. So, we're going to be talking about something that I'm not going to get into right now because we're just going to jump right into rapid fire. And then we will lead off and get into our subject for today.
So welcome to Rapid Fire. As you know, we're going to be giving you guys a couple of articles, and you're going to have 90 seconds to discuss the article. So
why did you feel the need to mention 90 seconds?
Just
keep
so
us
you know,
on?
because we're gonna cut you off at 90 seconds, rapid fire, ESPN style. All right, so first topic, 199 Catholic clergy administrators outed as sexual predators in Maryland.
Not surprised.
Yeah, nearly 200 Baltimore Catholic clergy members and administrators were exposed Wednesday as sexual predators as part of a sweeping 4-year investigation by the Maryland Attorney General.
So before we give our takes on that, I saw something too about about a Catholic priest.
This is your take.
Oh, this is my take. He confronted a nun on her deathbed and said that she had violated her chastity vow. And I'm like, bro, how do you know?
Because he's the one that...
Did you do it?
Mouthful.
But okay, in all seriousness.
She's a super freak. Super freak. Super freak.
You know nuns and priests are super freaky because first and foremost, the priests are always like raping little boys or molesting little boys. They don't rape little girls. As far as I know, they don't molest little girls, do they?
I've
never heard of that.
Because most priests are men, so men, you know.
But why though? I don't understand why they always molest little boys.
Well, it's cultural.
That's right.
The Catholic Church is coming from the Roman Catholic Church. I'm just saying, it's a
so they
cultural
like little
thing.
boys.
That's what they do.
And if you look at their symbolism, it's very clear.
Mhm.
It's just that people just...
They just like little boys?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm not a Catholic priest, so I don't understand it. And
So
more power to you if you're a
one
Catholic
thing I gotta
priest.
say, it's for you, if you're one of those guys who call yourself an alpha male, in Roman times, the alpha was the man who would be more dominant over the smaller or the younger boy that he was, having intercourse with. So
Okay.
keep calling yourself an alpha male.
Well, is our 90
Yep,
seconds
Central
up?
St. Martin's 2023 BA show previewed the future of UK fashion.
Wait. You got to pull up the photos.
Please
Yeah,
pull
we're
up the
pulling up
photos
the
because
photos.
You
this
got to
is
pull up the
ridiculous.
photos because this is like. Let me see if I can find the photos. So I can show
Confusion at
you
its
guys.
finest.
I'm actually gonna look at it right now.
My
Yeah, because
goodness.
like the photos. Oh, y'all got them? Okay, cool. Like, what is this? like they're literally like taking random. Like, there's a lady that's walking around with a mop, and then like there's a lady that's just like walking around with like random. They're basically grabbing random things and putting them on and calling them the future of fashion, and it doesn't make sense. It just like. This is the problem with the art world and the fashion world is that they just have to keep reinventing random shit. Like they just have to keep doing random things. And then that's what's considered innovative.
This guy has a face on. It's a face.
He is literally
face.
walking with a face.
It's ridiculous.
I was confused for a second, so,
No, you shouldn't. You should be confused. But the question is why does this keep getting co-signed?
To me, this is what happens when you lose
This guy
any
has
kind
balloons
of
on.
understanding of reality. I mean, because you could just make whatever you want. You're not really adhering to like the natural realities of the land. So that's what clothes is really supposed to be about, right? You wear what's necessary.
right.
This is just completely unnecessary.
This guy looks like a fucking
bored.
parade float. Like they look like. Oh, I said fear the working class. Like what kind of let them eat cake, classist kind of crap is that?
You saw Kanye lately?
Yeah, bro, Kanye's been wearing tights, bro.
Yeah, he has tights and combat kneecap defenders or some weird thing like that.
Kanye, please get back to
The
back to
video
things.
shows a woman keying more than 400 cars at a dealership in Vancouver area. And also, let me just note that they've been keying a lot of Teslas lately because people have a lot of animosity towards Elon Musk. So they've been keying Teslas.
I don't drive a Tesla, so keep on, people. But does it say why she's doing it though? Did she like try and buy a car and they denied her for a loan, and then she's like, no one's getting the car now?
Yes.
It was at
That
a
is
car
so
dealership.
evil.
What, keying the cars?
Yeah, because you can't get a
Is
car
it
loan.
new? Are they new cars?
Yeah, they're new cars.
Well, this ties into our topic today, kind of, right? And I'm not gonna say it, but it kind of ties into our topic, right?
Yeah, but you can't fight the battle that way. It's not going to work.
Yeah, but is she like keying them and writing something on the cars? Is she like writing like penis or like something ridiculous on the cars?
It's
Like
not
when she
clear.
keys them? It's not clear?
The thing about it is
How
So
old
how
is
much
this lady?
money does she owe?
Yeah.
Middle age.
none because
She's
the
middle-aged?
insurance
No.
company is going to pay. She's only helping.
The insurance company isn't going to pay anybody.
gonna-
It's the dealer. It's at the dealership.
The dealership has insurance on those vehicles before they leave the lot, and they're going to get paid for each and every car that I even thought that maybe, they paid her to do it. Because they're going to.
Oh, you mean like maybe it was the dealership not being able to move any cars, and then they're like, hey, let's get this lady in here.
Yeah.
Did she get arrested?
You might be right on that.
She got arrested?
So, next topic. Family Feud contestant who joked about regretting marriage, now on trial in wife's killing.
Not funny now, is it?
Okay. Look, I don't know what happened in their marriage, but anybody that's married knows that marriage is difficult, right? But it's not worth murdering your spouse over.
Unless you have a $2 million life insurance policy on them.
Unless you're that white lady from Utah that we talked about last week, like then murder your spouse and get that bread.
The
Get
one
that,
who had
secure
the
the bag.
cartoon
I sell life
of
insurance.
her husband.
Do you sell life
I
insurance?
sell life insurance.
For what company?
Banker's Life, call me.
Okay. Well, if someone takes a life insurance policy out on me, let me know.
It's just because of the society that we live in is so emotional. And that's, kind of how a spouse is able to kill the other spouse. It's just like a highly emotional. Yeah.
Like
He's feeling it too much.
the fact that you're rationalizing
I'm just saying.
this guy, like,
It is what it is.
if you marry her, or if you're married to her, and she takes out a life insurance policy, do not go to sleep.
Is there a button
Do
for
not
that?
go to sleep. Nah, we don't. We're there's no button
Like
for
a dun
that.
dun dun.
But yeah, yeah. I'm not going to bed. If me and Sandeep get
no,
married,
you don't have to
I
be
am
afraid
not-
of that.
I am not going to sleep. Like, yeah, it's not happening. Yeah, no.
Next topic.
Yeah.
China faces a new COVID wave that could peak at 65 million cases a week.
Could peak,
Yeah,
which means that they're expecting 65 million cases of it.
a week.
How do you expect
A
that?
week? Yeah.
I mean,
Maybe
how
how
many
do you do
people
that?
are there?
Billions.
Well, everybody's gonna get it, so be ready.
Well, the funny thing is like, how do they project that? Like, how are they projecting 65 million cases a week? Like, they're probably releasing it out into the
Because they're
public.
planned.
then.
They're telling you what they just planned.
Yeah, exactly.
That's it. It's simple.
They're telling you, like, we're killing 65 million people a week. And if you know or hear about it, just know that we're going to say it was COVID, but we're killing them.
and it's
right?
not like we didn't tell you.
Basically,
Exactly.
We told you it's going to happen.
Yeah.
it's gonna
They're
happen.
saying that the surge comes about 6 months after the country dismantled its sprawling infrastructure for dealing with COVID, including harsh lockdowns, mass testing, stifling quarantines, and strict mask requirements. So they've been kind of quieting down a bit, and that's what's causing the uptick. It seems.
Doesn't make sense.
No, it don't make sense. But hey, shout out to China. They're still connected to some culture and still traditionalist values. So, shout out to China. Not for killing everybody, but shout out for maintaining your culture.
So the
Help you
new,
out there,
new
China.
British cycling rules bar transgender women from competing in elite female events.
Cycling?
Trans women, trans men, non-binary individuals, and those whose sex was aligned male at birth will be eligible to compete in an open category under the new rules.
Wait.
But they
So-
won't be able to compete as women. So men, biological men that believe that they're women, will not be able to compete under the
Believe.
category, female category.
Oh, okay.
So
All right,
cycling,
that's
like
fair.
bicycling?
Yes, in Britain specifically.
That's fair.
Yeah, but like, who cares about cycling? Like,
lot of people care
no
about
one's going
cycling.
cycling. Are you
Yeah.
competing?
No,
in
I'm not
cycling?
competing, but I
But
know
like,
that
who
it's.
cycles and who competes in cycling?
Where is this?
People
this is in the
compete.
UK.
And
Britain.
people really
Britain.
cycle.
Are you talking about those assholes that will be on the street cycling,
Yeah,
and then they try and take
those.
up the whole lane? Like,
People
yeah,
care
nah.
about cycling. Sorry.
Who? I don't
Those,
think
those same
anybody
people
in
you
this
just
room-
mentioned.
Oh.
I don't think anybody in this room cares about
Zawaz
cycling.
does.
Zawaz.
He got a bike. You ain't see his bike?
Yeah, I got a bike, but I don't care about cycling. Like, why y'all doing Zawaz like that? Talking about he cares about
said
cycling.
He did.
Like competing? Zawaz, you compete in cycling? Okay, all right. Next topic.
Elon Musk's brain implant company Neuralink announces FDA approval of inhuman clinical study.
Okay.
Neuralink is building a brain implant called the Link, which aims to help patients with severe paralysis control external technologies using only neural signals.
One step closer to the Matrix. Like the Matrix being real. Like they're just gonna.
I just want to know what the repercussions of these kind of things are. I mean, it might sound and look good on the face value,
How
but
much
what's
money?
really happening?
How much money did he pay the FDA? Because you could just pay off the FDA.
He owns it,
He owns the FDA.
obviously.
No, he doesn't own the FDA.
Nah, I don't think so.
I mean, if you started doing trials on human beings, you got some kind of pull somewhere
No, I mean they do clinical trials in China all the time.
on humans.
Yeah, on humans.
Yeah.
yeah. They don't.
It's
That's
legal
where they
there.
do. It's like China and these Asian countries and these like so-called third world countries are basically where they do legalized slavery within the capitalistic system. So it's like that's where they do all the tests, and like they see like, okay, is this gonna kill everybody? Like like when they step up from animals, because how everybody, how like the Western society cares about animals more than human beings.
Yes.
So then they classify the step up from the animals are the people in the third world countries. So they test it out on those people in the third world countries before they test it out. They're not going to test it on the people here in America, but that's who they test it on next.
Not the civilized folk.
Yeah, not our people. Is that J.R. Smith? Oh, it's Black Mirror. Yeah, this Black Mirror. Black Mirror has a new season coming out soon, so I'm gonna watch it.
Ancient toilets unearthed in Jerusalem reveal a debilitating and sometimes fatal disease. Researchers found traces of dysentery causing parasites in material excavated from the cesspits below the two stone toilets that would have belonged to elite households in Jerusalem. And maybe that's why...
Why are they digging up toilets?
Oh, I'm about to
maybe
drop.
that's why Jews and Muslims don't eat pork.
I'm about to
What
drop
is
a
it that
bomb
they
for
were
that one.
expecting
Like
to
that's what you
find?
get. That's what you get. Like, why are you digging
Like,
up
what?
toilets?
Why? What?
Yeah, like you don't have anything else to do with your time. Go hang out with Elon and go figure out Neuralink and go talk to the FDA. Or go do something else with your time. Like, why are you digging up toilets? And then you're surprised that people are dying. They didn't. At some point, they didn't have soap. Those people were not washing their butts.
Crazy.
Like, and you're surprised that there's diseases in their feces, their ancient feces
I'm
toilets.
surprised this is news.
First off, how is it that you're still able to even get the feces? I mean, I would assume that by this time it's ancient, it's gone.
I mean, yeah, it would decompose at this point, but the fact that, like, okay, so hold on, I need more details. Like, are they going and then testing and being like, yes, this person died from the feces? Like, what did they do? They ran their finger along the toilet and then they're like, test this. Like,
I honestly
God,
think
this
they
is
just put this kind of
ridiculous.
stuff out to make archaeologists sound smarter and more intelligent than they really are.
archaeologists are just, I saw a meme the other day. It said, why are most women archaeologists? And they said, because women love digging shit up.
So
Wow.
evidently, dysentery is spread by feces contaminating drinking water or food.
No.
And we suspect it could have been a big problem in early cities of the ancient Near East due to overcrowding, heat, and flies, and limited water available in the summer.
See what I'm saying? They just making stuff
This-
up.
I
was
can't,
man,
just
I can't.
making it up.
How?
I can't. I mean, more power to the archaeologists. Keep digging. Like, they don't seem to learn their lesson. Like, oh, why are these things happening? Because we keep going and digging up dead things.
And next topic. Hawaii's feral chickens are out of control.
Hawaii's feral chickens.
Polynesians brought chickens' wild ancestors to the islands. Europeans brought domestic chickens. Now they're mixed and are everywhere.
Why did the Europeans have to bring the domestic chickens?
That's not true because Europeans stole their culture from
Exactly.
other cultures. So there's no such thing as them having domesticated chickens. But the question is like, they're saying what, that the chickens, like the chickens that are used to growing up in captivity are mixing with the wild chickens?
Not only that, hens and chicks are around in grocery stores, parking lots, and parks. They're
just like chickens
they're
everywhere.
feral. Yeah,
Feral meaning like wild?
wild.
So if they bite you, you get a disease.
Yeah, like do you die? That's lunch.
Exactly.
Like, yeah, like go get, like, you don't have to go to
They're-
KFC if you're in Hawaii. Shout out to the people in Hawaii. Go get your lunch.
It sounds like
Right.
people in the city are just not used to nature, and I think
Yeah.
nature is just coming back. That's it.
Yeah, go get a chicken.
I mean,
Kill it.
I would love for wild chickens to be out here. I'd be catching chicken
Oh,
every day.
I would be catching
Every
chickens. I'd be like,
day.
hey, we don't have to go buy chickens because I got some chickens off. I got chickens from
Finger
7-Eleven.
looking good.
What, you
finger
bought it
looking-
from 7-Eleven? No, it was in the parking lot. Like, that's it. You're good.
You know, there was roosters just walking around in California,
Where?
in Santa Rosa.
There were roosters
Yeah,
walking around?
That's
roosters just
good.
walking around. Yeah, we went and
That's
picked
a good
some up.
thing. For real.
That chicken we had that night.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
Peter, you didn't hear that.
Attorney for 11-year-old Mississippi boy shot by police says there's no way he could have been mistaken for an adult. So evidently, a Darian Murray is recovering after being released from the hospital.
I saw this.
He was shot. He's 11 years old. He's from Mississippi. And
I
he
saw
was-
this. So apparently, the mom told the boy, her son, the 11-year-old that got shot, said, call the cops because the dad, something was going on, right? And so the police showed up and said, everybody come out of the house. So the little boy is the first one to come out the house, and they shot him.
What?
They shot the 11-year-old boy. So he complies with what the police say, and then they shoot him in the chest.
Wow.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
what's going on with the cops? Are they going to get charged? Are they going to get
come
the death,
on,
death
man. They're
penalty?
on paid administrative leave. They're paying them to hang out until they decide what to do. But the police always do this thing where they're like, okay, we're going to investigate ourselves, and we will get back to you on our investigation done on ourselves. Like, if I get audited, I'm telling the IRS I did nothing wrong. Like, I'm not going to tell the IRS I did something wrong. So it doesn't make sense why you would allow the police to investigate themselves. But everybody knows what the police really are. So
but it doesn't make sense
they're
for
slave catchers.
a family going through a
Historically
domestic
speaking.
dispute to call the police because,
Well,
families
yeah, I
fight.
mean, no black person in America should be calling the
Hello.
cops. Like, if that's on the mom for calling the cops. Like, that's really on her because it's like, you know what the police do when they
You
show up.
already know.
All I gotta
They're
say,
always looking to shoot some black person.
And this
in
is
my place,
Mississippi.
those cops have been.
Yeah,
But this is
ain't. This
Mississippi.
is America. Son.
And
this ain't
is
Jamaica.
Mississippi. Hello.
Yeah, I mean, that's
Yeah.
not surprising. That cop should go to jail, but they're not going to send them to jail. Only time I've seen cops go to jail when they shoot somebody is when it's a cop, either a black cop or a non-white cop that shoots a white citizen, or it's a white citizen that shoots another white citizen. Then they're like, yes, now we must hold you accountable.
Oath Keepers member and Army veteran sentenced to 8.5 years in prison for January 6th.
It's the guy with the eye patch, right? I saw that. That's the guy with the eye patch. They gave him like 18 years or something like that.
For what?
8.5.
For when they stormed the Capitol.
Oh,
When all
that
those,
guy.
all those
okay,
people.
okay.
But this is a guy that apparently like masterminded the whole thing or something like that. Or he's a leader of some organization or something
It's
like
a
that.
woman.
It's a woman?
Yeah, it's a different person.
Oh, it's a different one.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So yeah, whatever. I mean, stupid games get stupid prizes. Like, what, you thought the law didn't apply to you? Like, you were going to go storm the Capitol? Like, you think the politicians are going to be like, well, you know, they aligned with our political beliefs, so there's no need for us to send them to jail.
No,
they're sending you to jail.
you remember that QAnon thing? They actually believed that QAnon was going to take over the country.
Well, some of that QAnon stuff is real.
Some of it, but
Yeah,
a lot
some
of
of
it
it,
was
yeah.
just BS.
Well, I mean, the thing is that it's real, but then what they do is they get you whipped up into like a world is ending type of mentality, and then they get you to freak out, and then you get people that shack up with like canned goods and like oil, and then they'll be like, the dollar is gonna die tomorrow, like we all need to prepare ourselves, like, oh God, we're all gonna die. Like, it's that same kind of mentality. It's that same thing.
No charges filed against man who dumped 500 pounds of pasta in New Jersey woods.
It's biodegradable. What is the
Community
problem?
advocates say the unidentified man has a history of mental illness.
How'd they catch him? Because I saw that they dumped, like, there was like 500 pounds of pasta just like in a random area. But how'd they track that? Like, somebody snitched on him?
I mean, he had to be making like multiple dumps because like 500 pounds of pasta is a lot of pasta.
But but what were you doing with that pasta?
What about the guys who dump in our water every day?
Right. Why is this news?
I mean, because it's just something to keep you satiated, to feel like, I mean, I don't know. I can't
Yeah.
even
I
rationalize
think
this.
you're like on the right track.
I mean, it's just ridiculous. Yeah, I don't know what to tell you.
Next.
Africa's largest polio vaccination drive since 2020 targets 21 million children.
Leave Africa alone. Leave Africa alone. Like, if you want to do vaccination trials on people, do it in America.
Not the civilized people.
Yeah, like,
We
do it in
just said
America.
that. No.
They're also under the age of 5.
No.
Go to the Upper East Side and test on all children under the age of 5. Let's see how fast they don't allow that to happen. Like, get out of here with your vaccines and whatever nonsense and poison that you're putting in the vaccines. Like, nah.
You know how many women are now sterile because of that? All
Yeah.
those vaccines that they're pushing on people.
That's
all they do, though. It's just an excuse to poison people
That's
and
the agenda.
population control, to sterilize people. That's it.
Yeah, the World Health Organization is saying that this is a crucial undertaking to close the vaccination gaps in the wake of COVID-19 pandemic and will provide millions of children with vital protection from the risk of irreversible polio paralysis.
Miss me with the bullshit.
It's like a mass media commercial of, like, you know, those commercials where they give you the drug and they tell you all the good things and
then they
really
say
fast they see all the bad things.
Say all the bad things.
That's exactly
May
what this
cause
is.
suicide. But they say it's so fast. They're like, may cause suicide. And then you're like, wait, what? who committed suicide? They're like, you. Gotta love Big Pharma. Shout out to Big Pharma. Killing everybody. Slowly.
What are Industry 4.1, the Fourth Industrial Revolution, and 4IR? Industry 4.0, also called the Fourth Industrial Revolution or 41R, is the next phase in the digitization of the manufacturing sector driven by disruptive trends including the rise of data and connectivity, analytics, human-machine interaction, and improvements in robotics.
So you're saying that they're saying that the new fourth industrialization is AI.
Yeah.
Is making us dumber.
I mean, they've been making everybody dumber already.
Exactly. It's just another numbing agent.
So,
I mean, it's just going to bring us down a level on our thinking capacity.
so let's use this to segue into our topic for today, which is the Industrial Revolution.
Mm-hmm.
So that's interesting because America, or the Western civilization, has a fascination with industry, right? They have a fascination with industrial revolutions for some reason. And we really wanted to talk about that today because why? Why does the Western civilization, have a fascination with industrial revolutions? I'll put it out there. Who wants to take that?
It's the detachment from reality. That's why.
But why though? What is it about industrial revolutions that benefits capitalism and benefits therefore the colonial society, particularly when it comes to industrial revolutions?
I mean, well, this is all a game, but, you know, if we're going to even talk about the Industrial Revolution, we have to really look at things from, like, you know, the root of it. And it's no secret, like, most of the world today speaks English, right?
Mhm.
English is even like the base language that most people are trying to learn, whether you're from China, India, Bangladesh, whatever the case is. English is like the universal so-called language that we're all using to communicate.
Well, it's the dominant society's
Right.
language, right?
Right. And that's really just because the basis of even what we're calling industry or capitalism and all that, it started in England. And it's interesting because England was actually the one who colonized most of the known world, to the point where I think Queen Elizabeth owned, like, down to to Alaska or something like that. She owned like 80% of the sea. Like, can you imagine? How can a person own the sea? Like, that doesn't. What?
I'm sorry, that's ridiculous.
It is ridiculous because you can't actually own land. You can't actually own anything.
But
It's
that's
all
what
just
it's about.
game.
It's about powering their systems, because each and every one of the systems are powered by the Industrial Revolution. Without taking that first step to from coal mining into the steam engine and to going into the manufacturing of steel, it propels the whole system. The whole system is built on that, because without it, we won't have the school system, the medical system, the politicians. None of these things will exist. And it's just because we're disconnected from reality. First of all, they had to disconnect us from reality so that we wouldn't be aware of the non-material realm. And like, first of all, what is colonization? We have to go into like how the world was colonized in order to even get into this question. So when we talk about colonization, sometimes we see it as something like a group of people just did. We don't see it as like a mindset. So when what we call Egypt now was at its height, there was a certain mindset that the people had. And when colonization began, it's not like people just came in. It's a mindset that people took upon. So we have to talk about that.
So it's something that you're saying was like gradual, like it's something
gradual.
that had to really be taught or like embedded into the society itself.
I mean, we are, like, at the end of the day, we're still human beings, and we are attached to certain things. Like, human beings have just like a way. We are copiers. So when we are introduced to things, we have an option. Like, there's nothing to stop us from attaching ourselves to certain ways and certain things. And so that's like how colonization began. We attached ourselves to things that weren't necessarily of us. But that's just like human nature.
Yeah, I can definitely see. I can definitely see and agree with that, because going even back to England, them being the number one colonizers in known history, taking it, from the Greeks and the Romans, there is no way in hell England would be England if it was not for colonization. For one place to thrive, another place has to suffer. So all of the resources, all of the wealth, the gold, even all of they're parasiting. Even all the people that they used to even start this industrial revolution was coming from slavery, was coming from actually stealing from people from all over the world.
Exactly. That's even how we even first came to the steam engine. The steam engine. When you do your research, they will give a credit to the steam engine. But how do you even make a steam engine without mining coal? And where did the coal come from?
Well, I think we can get ahead of ourselves, right? And we can get ahead of ourselves because if we go off of what the system deems as a first industrial revolution, what would they say is a first industrial revolution?
They would say
It's
coal,
really,
right?
coal.
They say coal, right?
Because that starts the making of machinery.
But time out. What's truly the first industry where you see a system utilizing a product, if you call it, in order to drive, or as the workforce or a driving force, in order to push a society forward?
Oh, it'd have to be religion.
Well, yes, religion, but let's talk about from the capitalistic standpoint, from a labor standpoint.
the Iron Age.
Slavery.
Oh.
No, slavery.
It's slavery. Like, you can't, miss me with the bullshit talking about that. Coal is the first industrial revolution of the world, because that's not true. It's slavery, because it means at one point, there was a group of people that said, hey, we want to drive our system forward. But in order to drive our system forward, we need to have the necessary workforce to do it.
Yes.
So what can we industrialize, or what can we create as a system in order to fund this forward or push it forward? It's slavery. It's chattel slavery. Now, a lot of people tend to talk about slavery and then remove the time and space aspect, right? Because we find ourselves existing in a realm, if you call it, if you want to call the earth a realm, right? Or the three-dimensional reality that we know it as in terms of the earth, right? A realm, then you have to talk about the fact that you don't set the parameters for time and space, right? it's imposed upon you. So if it's imposed upon you, then can you really say that this advent of slavery is strictly something that people are saying, hey, you know what, let's just do this at this time? Or is it more like, there was a point in time where there was a reset energetically or spiritually that allowed or opened up the door for this thing to happen?
Well, with things coming,
Yeah, I took it
with the okay. So I understand what you're saying, and so when we go back to where this mindset of slavery come from, we have to look at like the set of individuals. Slavery had to like come into place because somebody couldn't do what they needed to do for themselves, so they needed to like get other individuals to do it.
But even, let's look at it from the perspective of, because initiatically speaking, we understand that time and space, right, functions in a way where it doesn't come from us, right? Like, we have to be able to find out what's happening within the universe or the cosmos, and then that's what we use as a way to find our place within it, right? Mm-hmm. So when you even look back at when slavery started around what, 18 what, 18?
No, way before that.
Way before.
Yeah,
I mean,
way before
if
that.
we're
But
looking
we're talking
at,
about
like,
the industry, like really the first industry.
Well, if we're looking at it from like American or maybe Western or English history, then I would say the 1400s, but really is before that, because the Portuguese were coming into Africa way before that.
I'm sorry, 1600s. That's what I meant to say, not 18.
Yeah, but it's way before that, because it really was kicking off during the late 1300s into the early 1400s. That's when the Portuguese first started coming into Africa, right? And that's when they kind of used the tool of religion in order to convert some of these kings or chiefs, as they call them, whatever, into their religion and their religious perspectives, which to me changed the whole dynamic of culture. And once you change the whole dynamic of culture, you change the whole dynamic of that understanding of time and space, that understanding of nature, that understanding of the reality and the mindset of the people. Now, interestingly, I wouldn't even say that that's even the start of slavery, because it's not like slavery didn't exist before in the known world. Even the people that were putting this on, slavery on, or blaming them for at this point in time, before that, those same people went through some form of slavery. Because going back to even the Mamelukes, I love that word, my favorite word. Topic, I love that word. But, there was slavery going on in the Middle East. There was slavery going on in Europe. You had people of the Vikings who were enslaving the Slavic people. There was slave trades going around all over the world. But this was really happening because you had a group of people who wanted to make life easier on themselves. So they wanted to be able to take people from other places to do labor for them that they were no longer willing to do, because they wanted a life of leisure. They wanted a life of abundance for themselves and their people. Really, can you knock them? Can you really knock them? I mean, yes, yes. But if you're looking at it from that perspective, hey, they wanted what they wanted. They went for it, right?
Yes.
Understandable from their perspective. Now, when you have something like that occur, again, you can't have a place thrive without somebody else suffering. So now these people who have victimized the world with slavery, these people who have colonized the world, themselves are actually victims of it, which starts the process of the cultural shift, or the mindset that even allows something like that to occur. Because you are not going to think to now go outside of your own lands where you live and you thrive, to now go and attack other people and find ways to scheme and manipulate, to now take those people, to now use them as a force to now empower yourself or give yourself more wealth. You're not going to do that unless it's something culturally normal to you. So it has to be something customary. It has to be something normal. So it's the idea of normalizing the idea of using another human being. And that can only happen if it's something that you've seen, you've grown up witnessing.
Something
and that,
you're yeah,
exactly. And that's something
naturalized
that,
to.
Exactly. And that's something that was very common in Europe. It's like it wasn't something new. Now, in terms of the large mass and scale of the Industrial Revolution we're talking about, slavery in terms of the transatlantic slave trade, and prior before that, the Arabic or the Saharan slave trade, it was it was massive. It was huge, which now caused an entire shift in the global power structure, an entire shift in the wealth distribution of a society. And when I say society, I don't mean like individual societies like cities and countries. I mean society of human beings as a whole. Because I think a lot of people think before this Industrial Revolution, which gave way to so-called globalization, people were not global, or people didn't travel, or people weren't aware of each other.
Or they weren't able to until they started colonizing one area in particular.
Right, exactly. But that again is only coming from a cultural perspective, because if you're coming from a culture where your society is the dominant or the one on top, that's the way you're going to view the world. And we all have that kind of cultural view, because that's how we're taught history, that we had no contact with the rest of the world until Europeans came and then said, hey, I'm going to do this and you're going to follow, which isn't true, because even kings in South Africa were eating off Chinese plates and stuff like that, right? I mean, the Chinese had maps to South America. Like, Africans had maps to the Americas for a long time, which is where Columbus really got that information from, right?
Right.
But, you know, it's just a cultural thing. And once you are able to take hold of people and consort their minds and shift it to that kind of reality, now your own personal thought process become, how can I benefit from this?
Or how can I take it, trademark it, and make it better?
Exactly. It's like things just keep evolving. It's like slavery keeps on evolving. Like right now, we're living in slavery version 58.99.66 or something like that. This is like the next level of slavery.
Such a specific number, but okay.
But why? Why do we live in slavery? How are they able to do all these things? It's because it's a disconnect from the things that we have culturally and traditionally.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is like, you know, you have people that are, it's sort of like, if you go somewhere, right? Like you go to somebody's house, right? And then you see like there's garbage everywhere. Or like you go to a crack house, right? You're going to walk into the crack house and you'll be like, bro, why is this place like this way? But then it's really like the mindset of everybody is like kind of consumed or focused on one thing in particular, right? And they're all kind of possessed by this thing that's removing their ability to rationalize anything else in their life, where they're not taking anything else into consideration. Exactly. That's why you can walk into a crack house and you'll find like an infant or a baby just like sitting in a diaper for weeks or something like that. That's just an example. But that's what you're dealing with when it comes to colonization. Because, you know, the modern society, the colonial society, wants to rewrite history and tries to make the first industrial revolution about coal, about energy. But then it's like, no, if you're really talking about like industry, you have to talk about slavery being the real first industry, because you've been removed, where it's like you're living in that crack house where you're not looking at anything else rationally, and then you're just looking at another human being as a number or like a kind of like a product that you can utilize in order to get what you want, right?
It's the foundation of the society.
Yeah, I mean, it's the foundation of the society because it's a foundation of people not growing up in a culture that's connected to nature and really understanding that human beings are coming from somewhere and human beings are something. So when you don't understand the identity of what a human being is, yeah, of course you're going to be out here just looking at another human being as like, well, that human being looks different than me. That human being looks like this, or that human being doesn't, you know, do the same things as me, so therefore they're either null and void in regards to me or not on the same level as me, and then I can now utilize them in whatever capacity I want to utilize them. So if we're really talking about industry, really the first industrial revolution is really slavery. You can't say that the first industrial revolution is the coal industry, because that doesn't make sense. Because even coal, the industrial revolution for coal, can I get one of the producers to fact check me here? The first coal what's considered the first year of the coal industrial revolution?
So, like in the late 1700s.
Late 1700s,
Yes.
right?
That's
Yes.
according to it being used on such a mass scale, because it's not like people didn't have access to coal. Because even
Exactly.
coal itself is even used as medicine. Because
Right.
if you have poison or anything in your body that's toxic, you can eat a piece of coal, and the coal will burn that away.
Right.
It was in the 1880s.
1880s. That's when they're saying the first industrial revolution is the 1880s.
In
Bro.
the 1880s when coal was first used to generate electricity for homes and factories.
Because that's exactly what you said. It was before that they began to use coal. It's just that whenever and you got to remember, these people are like writing a history for an agenda. They're not writing like what actually happened. Even with the inventors of these engines and things like that, they are writing it for their own, agendas. They're not writing the truth about how these things came about.
Where they're
It's
not
all
talking about
an
real
agenda.
things. But hold on,
1839 was the first.
1839 is what considered the first boom of the coal industry. 1839 was the end of the boom in Britain for the coal industry.
Right.
And then they figured out it could power their cities. Because the weird thing is that like when you look at the coal industry, right? It's about electricity, right? But then I was thinking about this the other day, right? Because when we go back to Meditown, we're in the village, right? Or we're in like the indigenous areas.
Merita being Africa,
Like
for those who
Meditown
don't
being
know.
Africa. And like when we're in Het Aishat, like work stops. At what time?
When it gets dark.
When it gets dark. Because you're aligning yourself to the natural cycles of nature. So even kind of tying in when we were talking about slavery in terms of like these natural cycles of time and space and energetically and spiritually and all these adjustments that happen, it doesn't make sense why you would need to have an industry like coal unless you're doing something that's not in alignment with nature.
But you can only
Exactly.
do that, again, if you're trying to build a society of leisure. And you can only build a society of leisure like if you are functioning off of a mindset that utilizes human beings as tools. Because really, when we're talking about industry, right, it's really built on the basis of trying to utilize all of the people in the society. Because if we're talking about indigenous people, indigenous societies was a society that's built or based on functioning in the needs of people. That's why if you look at societies before this so-called industrial revolution, before all the machinery, all the coal, the electricity, it was based around farming. It was based around people who were able to do what their ancestors did. If you were a blacksmith, you did blacksmith work. You did what your father did, your father's father, and so on and so on. If you were a fisherman, you fished. But what was the case was that people were very much sustainable for themselves. People had the ability to feed themselves, clothe themselves, and they didn't have to, go to the state for anything. They didn't have to ask for anything. Welfare systems wouldn't have existed because everybody would have been able to sustain themselves. But if my goal is not to sustain people, but to sustain the system that utilizes the people, now I'm going to be able to take that away. So I'm going to build industries based off of electricity, coal, mining, all of these things to now create what we call the job market. Now, once you have a job market, those people now are not able to get what they need to get because there's an industry that is put in front of their face this is the standard and this is what you need to go by in order to live and survive. So now you take people, you shift them from their own ways of survival, and then you make them have to be dependent on the system itself to
Exactly.
survive. Now, that's a slave system, because only in a slave system will you find people working from not just 9 to 5, but from 5 to 10, from 5 to 9, and so on and so on. Overnight shifts, all these things. You shouldn't be working at those times because why? It's not in the cycles of nature. You're way off of alignment. That's why you find people in this society so depressed, so angry, so vicious, and all this violence and all these things is going on because people are not living in accordance to nature, and that can only happen again if the system itself is designed to have you only as a worker or instead of having you as a human being.
Well, it's like you're possessed by something, because in the modern society, this analogy we're using for a crack house is really like the modern society,
Or
like
a zoo.
Yeah, it's like a zoo. It's like a zoo, or it's like a crack house, really, right? Because it's like you're removing, the zoo analogy works too, because you're removing things from their natural inclinations.
Right.
Like we have a new kitten, right, in the temple. And someone was sending me some messages, and they're like, oh, the kitten is doing this, the kitten is doing that, and all this kind of stuff. And they were talking about how we needed to adjust the kitten. But I was sitting there and I was thinking about it, and I'm like, what this person is really sending me a message and trying to say is they're trying to stop the kitten from being its natural, like its natural self. Like they want the kitten to stop being a cat, or they want the kitten to be more aware of how to deal with a human being, which doesn't make sense because the kitten itself has its own natural inclinations, its own natural tendencies. But we don't find that with human beings. We find human beings attempting to remove themselves from the natural inclinations. We find human beings always attempting to distance themselves from nature. Or if we're talking about nature, it's from this lens of National Geographic. It's from this lens of like, Jurassic Park. It's from this lens of like, oh, look at the little... Oh, look at the people in Abu Dhabi or the people in UAE, and they have this tiger that they've, domesticated, and oh, it's so cute, Sigmund and Freud or whatever, Sigmund and Roy, yada, 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 these zoos things, because that's the way they interact with nature. And that's the way people are always trying to force nature to accommodate them.
And that even shows exactly how people have actually become like those animals that they're watching on National Geographic. Because for you to sit there and be looking at a cat or an animal functioning in a way that's not really how it should be functioning, it just shows that you can relate. Meaning that something inside you knows that you're not living in accordance to nature.
So you're trying to find it.
You're trying to find it.
You're trying to find it, yeah.
Some way, somehow.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting because, we have a sister that is very adamant about this analogy of a canary in a coal mine, right? And like they like
canary in the coal mine.
Canary in a coal mine, because what they would do is they would have a canary that they would bring into the coal mine, right? And then by the time, if the canary died, that would be their way to measure the carbon, what do you call it? Carbon monoxide. Carbon monoxide.
Okay.
The carbon monoxide in the mine, that it was at a dangerous level that it would kill you. So if the canary would die, then they'd be like, all right, let's get the hell out of here.
So everybody would just drop their tools and start running out?
Like, I wonder, where was PETA? Like, PETA, you're going to need to come get the coal miners, because, like, what was going on at this time? Like, what were y'all doing? Like, it really makes me think, like, why do we have to destroy nature or utilize nature? Because that's in the indigenous societies, they don't look at animals as tools. They don't look at animals in ways where you can utilize it to just kind of test the waters for yourself. Like, that animal exists within nature with you. Like, you're a part of nature. That's not a commodity that you can utilize in order to test out the dangerous levels of carbon monoxide in a coal mine. Like, it just shows the mentality of like the crackhead in the crack house, or the animal that's been removed from its natural habitat and its natural inclinations in the zoo. Like, it just, yeah.
But that just shows exactly how this way of thinking, this industrial way of thinking, really, really removes you from reality, as Satneet was saying.
Exactly.
Because if you now can look at the animal in that way, and you're looking at it as just a tool to use to like utilize all of the industrial things or the material things that you can gain from stealing from or overuse the things in nature, then that just shows that you're somebody who's in a way lost to nature itself.
Exactly,
Like
disconnected from
yeah,
reality.
Yeah, it's almost like you're alien to it. And again, that can only happen once you lose the realities of culture or understandings of how you should function or fit into a certain geographical place.
Right.
So, what's the next industrial revolution that they talk about after the coal one?
Steam,
after-
right?
Steam?
No, it's steam, and then, well, it doesn't make sense. It says that there's the steam is after the coal, but to me, how can you have the coal before the steam? Because the steam is first, like the water is first. That's what propels the coal.
I mean, there's probably in terms of like their invention of it or how they utilize the element, because it's not like we didn't have metal, we didn't have iron or
Right.
coal or steam and all these different things. There's all different ways indigenous people use these things to utilize them, but
Right.
in a way that was not parasitic or in a way that it didn't affect the environment on a mass scale. Like, there's a reason why in indigenous times or in ancient times we could drink out of any river, any lake,
Yeah, but now you can't.
and now you can't do that,
Right.
Because of the
Go drink.
overuse of it.
Go drink from the Hudson River. You might die. But hold on, go ahead.
Or you might get powers.
The
Like-
second industrial revolution occurred roughly between 1870 and 1914.
And what was it though? What was the commodity?
Steel.
Steel. So then it was steel.
Well, the coal and then the steel.
And then what was the next one? Because I have here that the first industrial revolution was technically coal, and then the second one was gas, and then the third one brings us a little bit closer.
The third
now.
is the rise of electronics, telecommunication, and computers.
Yeah, because I mean,
So 1950s.
Have you ever noticed every time there's a rise in technology, humans become not just more lazy, but so much more content with the slavery?
well, comfortable.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
much more comfortable.
Yeah.
To the point you don't even realize you're in that crack house or you're in that zoo. Because it's funny, I was on an appointment today and we were talking with this client and he was mentioning about how we used to remember numbers. We used to remember all the numbers.
You mean
He said-
phone numbers,
Yeah,
right?
phone numbers.
Yeah.
He still remembers all of the phone numbers from when he was a kid growing up because he grew up in like the 1980s. So we still had the phone where you had to, you put your finger in it and you turned it.
Yeah.
You,
The rotary dial,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. And if you mess up, you gotta do it
Start
again,
over.
start all over again. And he brought it up. He was like, "Isn't that crazy?" And he just randomly said that to me. I'm like, "Wow, that's funny." He said that because this is exactly what I'm even gonna be talking about tonight. It's this kind of thing, the industrial revolution, and how every time technology advances, it's like the human brain just decreases.
Did you plug the podcast? You were like, check it out, man. I'll send you the link.
I actually did.
Because that comes down to like what even this society calls intelligence, because we rely on artificial intelligence. Yet this society, you won't be able to like even persuade them that they're not intelligent. Well, intelligence delegates to different areas. Of course, yeah, the people that are like running this country and the things that are coming out of this, it's done in an intelligent way. It's intelligent. But when we talk about intelligence, we have to talk about like, is it evolving humanity? Is it declining us or is it making us evolve? So
I would say it's not, because it can't, right? Again, it goes back to that idea of the thought process of the human being today. It's like, are we thinking about the evolution of humanity or are we
Or-
thinking about the evolution of industry? Because they were worded like we're thinking about the evolution of humanity because the evolution of industry is what's going to elevate humanity. But it's really not, because human beings themselves aren't elevating. We're just becoming more and more slaves to materialism. And when you become a slave to materialism, you no longer become accessible to what we call like non-material.
exactly.
There's an interesting part that I wanna interject. I wanna read from the philosophy podium. It's just a paragraph, right? and it will segue us into talking about the next topic. So, this is from the Philosophy Podium, the 3rd edition. Like I said, we just put out.
It just dropped.
It just dropped. So get your copy. Let me drop a bomb for that. So this is page 77, chapter 20. It's called 2,000 Years of Lies. After 2,000 years of indoctrination, 2,000 years of shifting values, it is time we stopped for a moment and created some balance inside what we call the modern system. Honesty forbids us any indulgence. It is the destiny of humanity that is on the table. If there is any individual on earth who feels hurt or frustrated by the negative portrayal of this system, I would honestly suggest that at the same time he or she try to become responsible for bringing corrections to the system. It makes no sense to simply direct our frustrations against somebody else. There are some things that nobody really talks about, even though we know who is responsible for what. It is clear that the enslavement of people of color was not an error in human history. It is one aspect of a whole system of oppression and destruction of humankind. This system presents many faces behind which it hides. It is very important to notice, before we continue these analyses, the ease with which the white sub-race identifies itself as a system of oppression that does not discriminate or counts itself out of the list of people to destroy. The famous divide and conquer really succeeded in this context to the point where every time one group of people complains about the savagery of this system, another group of people, equally victims of the same system, will respond like owners of the system. This system is individual barriers and exploiting the hysterical nature of the human beings. Now, man, I'm dropping a bomb for that one.
Yeah.
Now, that's huge because the other day I saw something, right? And it was about there was a cop that was fighting somebody on the street, right? And then they were like, a motorist stopped and ran to help the cop get the suspect.
A random civilian.
And it made me think
Did
about...
he get an award?
Probably. No, he like turned, like, you know, in the Matrix, like when one of the people see like one of the people that are out of the Matrix, and then they like kind of like, and then they turn into Agent Smith, or they turn into one of the agents of the system, and then they start fighting those people. It's like that. Because what this system has done so beautifully and brilliantly is it's allowed people to really take ownership and commandeer the system's industries when they guide you along throughout this very long process of industries. And what they do is right now they have everybody by the balls, right?
Yes.
Because looking at this list of so-called industrial revolutions, right? They say the first one is coal, which is bullshit because we all know it's slavery. But then they say the second one is industrial revolution, gas, right? They say the third one is electronics and nuclear energy, right? And they say the fourth one is internet and renewable energy. Think about how many people are out here that take ownership of the internet and take ownership of renewable energy. Like, it is their personal mission to ensure that the survival of the earth happens because of these renewable energies, the poisoning of the planet, all of these things.
It's a big oxymoron.
It's a big oxymoron, but it just shows the ingeniosity of the system, right? Was that like a
It was accidental,
Like a
but it was so needed.
like dropping a bomb? Like, because what it does is it highlights the fact that they will take people and people will be like, yes, this is what we need. Like, they have Greta Thunberg or Greta Thunberg, whatever her name is. That little girl, the autistic girl, or so-called autistic girl, that goofy-looking white girl from wherever she is. And then they have her talking about like, oh, you've robbed me of my blah, blah, blah. You've taken this, you've taken that, and blah, 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 yada, yada, yada. And like how there has to be something different. But then the problem is like everything she's saying is true, but then where she wants to direct you is back into the system,
Mm-hmm.
which becomes a problem. But that's the way they have everybody by the balls, is that they have everybody willing to take the systems venues, the systems pathways, and say, like, these are the things in which we have to utilize. These are the things in which we have to use. And they have everybody by the balls
Yes.
doing this.
Running around in circles.
It's just a slave mentality.
Yeah.
That's all it is. It's a slave mentality. You can't really get around it.
I mean, it's sad. It's sad, but then it almost begs the question, like, what do you do? Like, what are you supposed to do? Like, are you supposed to just, like, keep going to the person that murders your culture, murders your family, murders your father, murders your mother, murders your brother, murders your sister, kills your family, wants to make you sterile, wants to do this to you, wants to do that to you? Are you going to say, like, yeah, I keep choosing this, but I keep choosing this in the name of a different face that this system will present to me as an option, which is like, now it's renewable energy. And then now, because I mean, I even know people personally that are trying to kick to me the power of AI. People that are trying to kick to me the power of, like, oh, utilize this, utilize that. Like, oh, it's the future and this and that. Because it's like, that's the new face, or that's the new aspect of the industry. It's AI and it's going to another planet. It's like, but why don't we stop and then think about this planet? Like, where are you going, bro?
But to those people's defense, they are thinking of the planet, right? Because the whole aspect of renewable energy, they think they are. Right. But again, it's like you said, it's just a trap of the system.
Yeah.
Because the whole idea of renewable energy is to make the planet cleaner, to make the planet safer, and to save the planet and save humanity, right? But at the same time, it doesn't make sense because you're utilizing industry to also do so, right? When industry is what polluted the planet in the first place. So it doesn't really make sense. Like, for us to have renewable energy, whether it's solar, whatever, where do you get the material for the solar panels?
Exactly.
Where do you get the material to make the wind channels and all these things?
Yeah, but solar
Like,
power is just work when the sun is out. Like, that's solar power. Like,
which is what indigenous people are doing anyway.
Exactly. It's like, just miss me with this bullshit where it's like you're trying to make, like, you're kicking me this bullshit, and then you're telling me, like, this is the thing. Solar power is work when the sun is out. It's like, you don't need solar power. Like, what? You need solar power to do what? Power your laptop? It doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
So you can work in the industry.
And there's a confusion
From
in
sun
there
up
where
So
to
you,
sun
can, so you can work outside of nature.
And the evolution
From
of
sun up
the
to sun up, you working.
industrial revolution is the only thing that is evolving, and people aren't.
It doesn't make sense because human beings, we understand, as initiates, we understand that human beings absorb light, right? So we understand that that's why when the sun goes down, you start to get tired.
Melanin.
I call it sundown syndrome.
There's so many people that are listening that have been with us all podcasts, and then they're gonna be like, melanin, but I have melanin. Like, they're gonna be like, how dare you? I was with you. You keep talking about white people, but now you've attacked me. Like, yeah, it almost becomes like frustrating in a lot of ways because there's just so much BS out there, and there's so much BS out there that it's so difficult to navigate what's actually useful and what's not, because the system is there, like, parading itself as an alternative at any given opportunity, any given moment, to really kind of like jack you or hijack you or kind of like steer you in a direction where you think you're making a change. It's like all these people that vote, and then they're like, well, if you want to make a change, make sure you vote. And it's like, bro, you and I both know voting changes nothing. You and I both know that putting your life in the hands of these politicians means nothing and will take you nowhere. But for some reason, you're a fool and you think that voting and
Signing petitions.
yeah, signing petitions and going and being like, stop killing us.
Protest.
Like protesting. Like,
Which
it's
is
a
also
waste
legal.
of time.
A legal
It's a
aspect
waste
of
of
the
It's
time.
system.
legal. As long
Because
as
it's
it's
still-
peaceful, it's legal. But then they're not peaceful. They're not peaceful when they go to Africa and they kill everybody. They're not peaceful when they go and they drive you from your homes and they take your resources and they are slitting your throat. And they're
that's the
killing
part-
you in real time.
Well, that's the part that most people don't see, because if you live in a world of industry, you're only focused on yourself and not even your family. You could live around family and not be focused about with family. And that only happens because, again, you're not thinking about the world and how what you do and what's happening is affecting other people. Because the other people on the other side of the world, they're again,
Well,
less
out of
than
sight, out
animals.
of
I mean, I
Yeah.
think they
Out of
think
sight, out of
about it.
mind.
They just put like priority over their own lives. They don't
Well,
care
yeah.
because they can't touch them and see them
Well, yeah, because
until they send the
it's like
army
the
over there to
crackhead
kill 'em.
syndrome. It's like crackhead. It's like you're in the crackhead. You're in the crack house.
It's like
or
the-
you're in the zoo.
It's like the people who nowadays on social media, they post one post. Oh, free Ukraine. Oh, save the Amazon. Like your post is gonna actually do nothing, bro. You know what's
exactly.
gonna really save the Amazon? Turn off your laptop, stop driving your car, and then we'll see if the Amazon gets saved. Let's see. Let's try that. But people are not gonna do that,
Stop
Right.
using paper.
Yeah.
right?
Stop buying these things.
Mm-hmm.
Like, get out of this system and go back to an indigenous system where they're not infringing and imposing upon nature and taking natural resources from nature and then claiming like, oh, this is what we can do. No. Like, in the indigenous societies, what they're doing is they're not going and cutting down trees. They're not going and killing animals for fun, hunting animals for fun. It's only on a need.
And it's what's necessary. You take what
Exactly.
you need,
Exactly.
not what you want. Not to
Some of these people need Lexuses.
Yeah, they all need Lexuses. They all need Mercedes Benzes and all this nonsense.
Right.
Keeping up with the Joneses, man. It's very frustrating because they really have a lot of people like just like drinking the Kool-Aid and just kind of like doing the like going through the motions of like revolution, and then it's like such a waste of time, and it's so ridiculous. It's so ridiculous.
It is. I actually today we were out and I saw a guy with a shirt, and on his shirt it said savage, and we actually we all like brag on this term like savage.
I'm a
So,
savage.
I'm a savage, you know.
Megan Thee Stallion. I'm a
classic.
savage.
Don't
You
do
know,
that again.
Yeah. But these are the same things that help our society take down other indigenous cultures,
Savagery.
calling them savages.
Yeah.
It's kind of
Calling, because there's even like we were talking about it, and I was saying that like Dior, Christian Dior, like one of the European designers, like they have that cologne called Savage, right? And they got Johnny Depp out here like, oh, I'm a distinguished gentleman and I'm wearing this cologne, Savage, Savage, and then it's like, what? It's like, so you're calling yourself like a person with no culture, like, because normally like a savage is somebody that's like very destructive. Like, why would you be championing yourself as a savage?
That's even that again is also a falsehood. It even shows how cultural norms can actually change the idea or the perspectives of the human mind.
Yeah,
Because to
contemporary
even-
agreements.
Yeah, it's contemporary agreement. Because he even calls somebody savage, which is what they were calling indigenous people when they're going in and murdering and enslaving
Exactly.
and
Well,
all
it was
that, right?
allowed them to function from that crackhead mentality,
Right.
from that crack house mentality, that zoo mentality, where you can come in and grab people.
But all a savage really means is somebody who's attuned or accustomed to the realities of nature. That's what a savage really means.
Hello.
So to really call somebody a savage, I listen. If you're gonna call me that, I'll take that as a compliment, because it means that I'm in tune with reality and you're not. You're the actual destructive one. I would call you the barbarian, the barbaric one.
right.
But you know, again, it's a sad reality, but it's just a reality that we have to deal with. And to give people a context or an understanding of maybe what's different, what can we really do? Because I think that's what a lot of people are asking for. Like, what's
Yes.
the solutions?
Yes.
Because we can even talk about how it's killing us, how the pollution is killing us, how technology is making us dumber and all that. But what can we really do? Well, like, what's the solution? And the solution is always going to be to learn another way, because this only
Well, to
came
go
about.
back to the original way.
Exactly, go back to
Yes.
the original way, because all industrial revolution really did was take you away from a way of living or a lifestyle or an understanding of nature or understanding of being.
Yes.
So you're being one way opposed to another way. So it's just simple. Learn to implement being another way. because you were already taught one way. So let's go and explore another way. And how do you do that? You have to go and find indigenous culture.
Yeah, I mean the problem is that like people don't look at indigenous culture as a viable alternative. People look at indigenous culture from the lens in which they've been conditioned to view indigenous culture from, and the lens that they've been conditioned to view indigenous culture from is like it's a culture that's less advanced than theirs, it's less developed than theirs, and therefore is sort of like, oh, it's like a novelty. It's like, oh yeah, I'm going to go spend 3 months in Africa, or I'm going to go spend 2 months in the Amazon, because what I'm going to go do is I'm going to like find myself. I'm going to like not wear as many clothes. I'm not going to wear deodorant. I'm not going to shower. I'm not going to have running water. And then your mom or your dad or your auntie or your uncle or your cousins or your brother or your sister at Thanksgiving is going to be like, oh, poor old Terrell is just out there finding themselves and, you know, in Africa. Oh, poor old, you know, Tyrone is just, Tyrone's not even going to go do that. But like, you know, oh, Sally is out there finding themselves. And like, that's the way that they look at it, because they're putting the indigenous culture and they're positing it from the lens of like, okay, they don't really have anything. So it's just kind of like a phase. It's like the phase you go through like when you're 19 and then like you see a homeless person for the first time. And then when you see a homeless person for the first time, you're like, oh man, what is this? Like how are people living like this? But then by the time you're 23, you don't give a shit about homeless people anymore, because you've been deconditioned, you've been conditioned, or you've been removed from that kind of like that mentality where you're like, that's a human being. And you stop looking at other people like human beings. So this system is ingenious. This system is ingenious in defeating you in the long term. I think Tupac talks about how this system defeats you as a man. This system defeats you over time, because what it does is it kind of removes that spirit of revolution over time, because like father time eventually catches up with you. Father time meaning like you want to settle down eventually. Like that kind of spirit, that youthful revolutionary spirit that you have at the age of 19 or the age of 18, it gets removed from you. And it gets removed from you because eventually you find out everything is a waste of time. You can't change the system due to the way utilizing the ways that the system presents to you as viable alternatives to change the system, because it's everything that the system wants to control. And then therefore you're just there feeding into the system. And then eventually you're just like, well, why don't I go get the house? Why don't I go get the picket fence? Why don't I go get the wife? Why don't I go get the children and get the dog or get the cat and just get a job? Like, why don't I do these things? And that's the problem, is because the lens in which people have been conditioned to look at indigenous societies is from the lens that they don't have anything to offer you. It's just a novelty. And we're here to tell you bullshit.
Hello.
They have something to offer you, but you are going to have to fight against the conditioning that the system, that the powers that be, your mother, your father, your priest, your imam, your what's the Jewish
Your
one?
alumni.
Rabbi?
Your rabbi, all of them, whatever they're conditioning you to look at and say like, oh yeah, they don't really have anything. But at the end of the day, they know within reason, they know full force that everything that they have is stolen from indigenous societies.
I saw you had your finger there for a while.
Oh, I was ready to drop that bomb. I was ready to drop that bomb. Yeah, I mean, the thing is like looking at today, right? You look at today, and then you look at the way that they have the people really ready to, like, they're clamoring for AI, right? I saw a post today, and they were like, oh, here's all the things AI can do for you. And then it's like, why can't you do that yourself? Like, why can't you figure out how to do that? Like, you need AI to do that for you?
It's
Like
easier, man. It's easier.
It's easier.
Yeah, but ease is the trap.
Exactly.
Easy is the trap.
And that's how they get us. That's exactly how they get us. Like, I remember my mom, right? She was telling me a story about how when she was growing up, there was all these different kind of trees and these different vegetables and these different herbs that were around during her time. And she said it's interesting because now in today's day and age, you don't see those trees and those plants no more. Like we have a bush called callaloo that we eat. It's a bush that actually comes from Merita. Now, there's two types of callaloo. There's the one that's like green, that's just green, and there's the original one from Merita, which is like a greenish and with a little red hue or red tint to it. You don't find that one anymore, and it won't grow. Why? Because what ended up happening was, due to the industry of bauxite mining and the industry of coal mining and the industry of all the other minerals that they mine in Jamaica, what happens is the factories release some kind of soot or some kind of pollution on the area around. So now it affects the soil. So certain fruits, vegetables, and herbs are no longer able to grow because of the pollution that's happening in the soil. So to me, that really shows how not only are we losing aspects of ourselves, but we're losing aspects of the nature that even makes us ourselves. Because when people were eating those things, people were much healthier, people were stronger. I remember a Jamaican guy told me, yo, brother, I never knew what cancer was. I never knew what diabetes
It didn't exist.
was. I never knew what any of these things were until I came here. Until years later. And it didn't exist. So it's this idea of industry. It's this idea of mining. And all these different things
It's killing
us. It's leading us to our destruction. But we refuse to give it up simply because of our comforts. And we have to find a way. We have to find a balance or a way to move ourselves away from that comfort or move ourselves away from the idea of these things. We don't need these things. A lot of these things are unnecessary. Sure, today's day and age, we have to utilize it, right? We're even talking to you guys through the computer because it's the only way we can reach you guys.
Yeah.
So we
Unless
have
you
to
come out
utilize
here
it.
in front of us.
Right. But at some point, we have to still find ways to bring ourselves back to balance. We still have to find ways to bring ourselves back to health. Still have to find ways to bring ourselves back to humanity. Otherwise, what's going to happen in the next 100 years? I mean, look what's already happening. It's just been like what, since coal, gas, and iron and all that. Plants that existed don't exist anymore. Diseases we never had exist. What's going to happen in 100 years from now?
And that's the trap, because once we feel like we've got the money, we have the comfort, that's the new goal. It's the new car, the house, and working to get these things, that's the new goal. So anything outside of that is ridiculous.
Yeah, it's an unfortunate situation that we find ourselves in, but what we have to do is we have to really find the courage and we have to find the strength to really continue to fight. And the way that you fight the system is the way you look inside yourself. And when you look inside yourself, you really look at the things that have been planted inside of you that become the seeds of destruction, that become the thing that you base your whole life off of. And when you find those seeds, then you're able to root them out. But in order to root them out, you have to find something that precedes this system. You have to find something that precedes this destructive mentality and these seeds of destruction that have been planted in you. But as long as you start asking the question, where does the way that I think come from? How does the way that I approach the world come from? Why do I think like this? Why do I approach things like that? Why do I do this? Why do I do that? And how did my ancestors think? And was there a different way? Were they doing things differently? And that, my friend, will start you and embark you on the path in order to find the solution that you're looking for. Get back to your ancestral practices. And I'm not talking about going and getting an RV and then moving around the country and then not showering and living in the back of a van and then going out and I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that, and I'm not gonna invest in the system. No, that's a dishonest way, because all you're doing is you're just burying your head in the sand and you're acting like an ostrich and thinking that you can actually fight the system that way. No, you have to do something tangible. You have to find the ways that your ancestors were functioning, the way that your ancestors were moving, the way that they were living before this system or the agents of this system, the colonizers, whatever you want to call it, whatever makes it palatable or makes it easy for you to understand, whatever those people were doing before they showed up and forced your ancestors to then adopt their ways and function in that way that everybody is functioning now. And once you start asking those questions, once you start looking for those things where they're actually alive, where they're actually existing, where they're actually still alive and functioning today, then, my friend, you will start on the path of evolution. This has been another episode of the Gated Gates podcast. Please, thank you for tuning in. We hope you continue to tune in. Please get your copy of the Philosophy Podium, Volume 3 at risingfirefly.org. This is the gem. This is the gem. Please check it out. It's the only book that you can find written by a Dogon from the indigenous perspective that can help you start getting out of a lot of this bullshit that you find yourself in and a lot of the bullshit you find yourself drowning in today. Now, what you can do right now is you can check out, if you're on the West Coast, check out all of the events that we have going on, dogonwisdom.com. Everything will be listed there. Check out one of the events. The son of Nebenabala Musamota Dinabig is on that tour, and if you want to catch him, you want to find him in person, a legitimate Dogon priest, go to the dogonwisdom.com. Also, check us out. Our location, this temple, the New Jersey temple, you can check us out at kebtah-nj.org. The QR code, scan that, go to the website. That's where you can find us. But also, check out all of the other temples that we have. We have temples in Montreal. We have temples in Toronto. We have temples in Chicago. We have temples in Houston. We have temples in Baltimore. We have a temple in London. We have a temple in Coventry. And that's not Merita or what we call or what you guys know as Africa. So check it out. Our headquarters in Merita or Africa is in Ouagadougou, Burkina Faso, but we also have temples all throughout the continent of Africa. So check us out. This has been another episode of Gated Gates Podcast. I'm your host. My name is Tutibsaa Namir. I'm here with my co-host, Kagzrimen Kebtah, and our initiate guest, who is Satneeth Hekwapti. Check us out. Thank you for tuning in. Please continue to tune in, and we'll see you next week. Gated Gates Podcast.